Welcome to Top 10 Event YouTube channel. Subscribe and bell the notification button to get new videos every day. Now we will present to you about top 10 incredible tales from 9/11. Number 10. First among first responders, even for the physically demanding job of firefighter, Battalion Chief Oriyo Palmer was in exceptional shape. The 45-year-old was an avid marathon runner, and on 9/11 his endurance proved unmatched among his peers. Though the planes impacted the upper floors of both buildings, the South Tower was struck slightly lower, from the 84th floor down to the 78th. The latter was a sky lobby, a mid-building connection point where passengers switched from express elevators to ones servicing local floors. Firefighters faced a nearly impossible task, tracking up dozens of flights of stairs carrying gear that weighed upwards of 70 pounds while shooing aside tens of thousands of evacuees heading the opposite direction. Number 9. The goriest floor. What greeted Oriyo Palmer upon reaching the South Tower's 78th floor was the worst human wreckage anyone witnessed that day. Again, the 78th floor was a sky lobby, a transition point between express and local elevators. And since so many in the South Tower decided to evacuate after the first plane struck the opposite tower, the sky lobby was packed with as many as 200 people. When United Airlines Flight 175 sliced through it at 9:03 a.m., the blast blew everyone off their feet. "I flew from one side of the floor to the other," recalls Ling Young of Aon Corporation. Clearing the blood off her glasses, she saw that it was like a flat land. Everybody was lying down. Judy Vine, also of Aon, was airborne long enough that she remembers pondering what a terrible way to die this was. When she landed, her ulna was shattered nearly beyond repair. They were among the fortunate few. Only 14 people survived. Number 8. The ticket agent that should have listened to his gut at 5:45 a.m. He was greeted with a first-class one-way ticket and an angry scowl from a man with an Islamic name. "I said to myself, if this guy doesn't look like an Arab terrorist, then nothing does. Then I gave myself a mental slap, because in this day and age, it's not nice to say things like this. Said to myself, you've checked in hundreds of Arabs and Hindus and Sikhs, and you've never done that. I felt kind of embarrassed." That was Michael Toohey, a ticket agent at Portland International Jetport in Maine, admonishing himself for being suspicious of the Middle Eastern man at his check-in counter. That man was Mohammed Attahu. After Toohey dissuaded himself of his worst fears, caught his flight to Boston's Logan Airport along with a companion, Abdulaziz Al-Amari. Once there, they boarded American Airlines Flight 11, which Atta crashed into the North Tower. Number 7. The day's other suicide mission. It's well known that, as it became clear the attacks comprised multiple hijackings, fighter jets were scrambled to reassert control over the nation's airspace. Coincidentally, the North American Aerospace Defense Command was conducting military exercises that day, so several jets stood ready for takeoff, of course. The event's condensed timeline and the nation's sheer size combined to make intercepting the terrorist-piloted planes unlikely. By the time NORAD confirmed the reported hijacks weren't merely drills, the North Tower had already been impacted. And United Flight 175 was just 17 minutes from the South Tower. American Airlines Flight 77, which crashed into the Pentagon at 9:37 a.m., wasn't reported as a suspected hijacking until 9 a.m., an extremely tight intervention window that leaves United Flight 93 which was delayed prior to takeoff, so remained in the sky well after the first three crashed. Number 6. French film noir. Suddenly, the roar of an airplane flying far too low pierces the air. Jules swung his camera up just in time to capture the only footage of American Airlines Flight 11, the first plane, impacting the North Tower, that firehouse, home to FDNY Engine 7 and Ladder 1, was among the first to reach the World Trade Center. Jules would film the most inside look at what firefighters faced that awful day. Jules made some difficult choices along the way. Upon arriving at the North Tower, he encountered two people engulfed in flames after being splashed with burning jet fuel. Jules chose not to point his camera at what his eyes were seeing. Soon, however, the day's gruesomeness would become unavoidable. At first, I heard this huge sound, he said. It was almost like a car that had been dropped from very high up. And it could be a piece of the building falling down. And then, he continued, I heard the firefighter behind me saying, "Okay, we've got jumpers." Number 5. Last call. Cosgrove and two colleagues ended up in an office where the smoke was less intense. Still, he knew he was in serious trouble. At 9:54 a.m., he called 911 and alerted emergency dispatchers of his exact location. They called back a few minutes later, and Cosgrove answered, "Hello. We're looking in. We're overlooking the financial center. 3 of us. 2 broken windows." Then, a gut-wrenching, crescendoing rumble. "Oh God. Oh!" Cosgrove screams. The line cuts off as his floor joins the 110 other stories, pancaking to the ground. Cosgrove's audio was later used in the prosecution of Zacharias Moussaoui, a conspirator in the attacks. Number 4. One man's lagging cost to their lives. Not so for those below the 92nd floor, nearly all of whom escaped, since the tower, despite being the first struck at 8:46 a.m., was the second to collapse at 10:28 a.m. So Ramos and Zhu had ample time to descend to safety. Then they came across Victor Wald, a perfect stranger, as shown in Inside the Twin Towers, above, which blends interviews and dramatizations to portray stories of those evacuating the buildings. Wald was struggling mightily, physically but even more so mentally. He is shown pondering irrelevant questions, theorizing about those responsible for the attacks and, most frustrating of all, repeatedly pausing to rest and ruminate while the tower's lifeline ticks down to 0. At the 36th floor, the trio encountered firefighters, who informed him that the other tower had collapsed. They urged Ramos and Zhu to leave Wald, 16, and save themselves. Zhu listened. Ramos did not. Zhu survived. Ramos did not. In fact, Ramos was the only employee from his company, May Davis, to perish that day. Unfortunately, Wald's inability to save himself cost a would-be hero his life. Number 3. The man who dodged a plane. After the first plane hit the North Tower, Primeth took the elevator down to the South Tower lobby, where a security guard assured him the building was secure. He went back up to his office with his boss, Kenichiro Tanaka, 18, who died that day, shortly after arriving back at office. Primeth looked out of his south-facing window. "I saw this giant aircraft coming in slow motion towards me. I leveled eye contact, and I just froze." He unfroze just in time to dive under his desk as United Flight 175 smashed through walls, brought down the ceiling and annihilated every desk, except the one he'd ducked under. Primeth was buried in Rolam, testament to his closest of calls. A piece of the plane's wing was wedged in his office door. Number 2. And her unborn child. Among the victims that day, 10 were known to be pregnant, on official memorials. Their names include those 4 terrible words, and her unborn child, after each woman's name. Of this upsetting subset, none is more heartbreaking than Patricia Massari. Massari worked for Marsh & McLennan Company on the 98th floor of the North Tower, along with more than 1,350 other Tower 1 workers. Her fate was sealed early that day, at 8:46 a.m., when the first plane, United Flight 11, slammed into the North Tower, obliterating access to all staircases and elevators for those at or above its point of impact. She had no chance. Patricia was on the phone with her husband, Louis, when the plane hit very near her office. "Oh my God," she exclaimed, and their connection was cut forever. It's unclear whether she was killed during the initial impact, the ensuing fire, or the building's collapse. Number 1. A bubble in the rubble. After ascending 27 floors of the North Tower by 10 a.m., FDNY ladder company captain Jay Jonas gave the wisest order of his career. "I'm pulling the plug," he told his crew. It was time to leave. On the double, Jonas' crew was still 60 floors shy of reaching Tower 1's impact zone, and had just learned that the South Tower had collapsed. Jonas realized the only lives he'd be able to save were those of his fellow firefighters. On floor 20, that number grew by 1 when the team came across Josephine Harris, a bookkeeper for the Port Authority who'd been injured in a car accident 2 weeks earlier. Adding Harris to the group significantly slowed their descent. "We want to stay together as a unit," Jonas recalls, "but now we're going one step at a time. Step by step. We're not going